When discussing the topic of information manipulation, one of the keys is to look at the parallels between money laundering and information laundering, because there really are consistent parallels with how somebody who runs an illicit financial campaign works dirty money into a financial system in the same way that somebody running a disinformation campaign has to work dirty information into the information ecosystem. My name is Bret Schafer. I'm a senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund of the United States. I study disinformation for the Alliance for Securing Democracy. And in particular, I look at state-backed information operations. So I study how Russia, China, and Iran are able to influence people across the world using social and traditional media platforms. So the concept of information laundering, again, pulls from a body of work looking at anti-money laundering. So anti-money laundering has always looked at ways in which bad actors, whether they're drug dealers, people selling illicit weapons, are able to clean their money and get it into a legitimate financial institution. So if you're selling a bunch of drugs on a street corner, you can't just walk with a bag of $10 million into a bank and not expect there to be questions asked. In the same way, if you're running a disinformation campaign, you can't take hacked material, you can't take a false story and just walk it into the New York Times. So looking at those running money laundering campaigns is a good way of understanding how those who run disinformation campaigns operate. So if you're running a money laundering campaign, what you first need to do is place that money somewhere, anywhere in an account that doesn't directly connect back to the point of origin. Once you place that money, you then need to spread it. So this is called layering. So oftentimes you make a bunch of small transactions through a bunch of different accounts that, again, don't have a direct connection back to the illicit point of origin of that money. And then it's called integrating. So you integrate money into a financial system. So once the Bank of America sees a bunch of transactions coming in, they're looking at several different small transactions made from accounts all over the world, none of which connect back to the person running this illicit campaign. If you're running a disinformation campaign, you have to work through a similar process because, of course, if you're trying to misinform people or disinform people, you don't want to have your fingerprints on a piece of dirty information. For example, if you hack an account and you steal emails from a political candidate to try to smear that person, you don't want to be connected to that campaign. So what you first do, like a money launderer, you place the information online. You use an anonymous social media account, you use a blog post, you use any sort of information source that doesn't directly connect back to you. Then there's the layering process. So you can use a bunch of troll accounts or bot accounts or different blogs or outlets, all of which is to spread this information across the ecosystem, again, moving it further and further away from you. And so it's harder to connect back to you and to understand your motivation behind this disinformation campaign. And then finally, it's the point of integration. So integration in a disinformation campaign is when that piece of information actually finds itself in a credible major media outlet and starts to be repeated by real people. That's the key. For disinformation to work, you have to have real people believe it and real people to spread it. So this is a way of looking at a disinformation campaign in much the same way we've always looked at money laundering. It needs to be this process of laundering a bit of dirty information from its illegitimate point of origin to a legitimate final integration point.